session 3 on baptism, and today I'm going to try and highlight some of the different understandings between the different churches. Firstly, the Roman Catholic Church, and they put the emphasis on baptism being the mark of belonging to the worldwide Church of God. And it's not just the worldwide church now, it's church down the ages as well. Just as the Jewish people became part of the Old Covenant through circumcision, so we become part of the New Covenant through baptism. This, of course, makes baptism essential. Therefore, if a little baby is born who looks like they're not going to survive, they'll do an emergency baptism because they feel that unbaptised babies cannot go to heaven. This is a view that takes seriously the objective element of our salvation. It's something God has done for us. We belong to his family because of what because of what he has done, not because of what we have done. The weakness of the view is that it can be seen a little bit like magic. I'm baptised, so it doesn't really matter what I do now. A second view is that of the Baptist Church of Christ and some other denominations, who say that baptism can only happen when a person comes to a confession of faith of their own. Call it believers' baptism, that the church is a company of believers. It's very strong on the understanding of that we do need to make that personal commitment. But it raises questions about who can belong. What about an intellectually disabled person who cannot make that confession? Can't they then belong? It also has the danger of the body becoming a body of just like-minded people rather than the worldwide Church of God. A third view is that of the Pentecostals, and they would say water baptism isn't really necessary. What matters is the baptism of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is at work in your life, bringing the reality of Jesus and relationship with Jesus to life within you. The strength is that it focuses on that inner reality of our relationship with Jesus. But the weakness is it can become dependent on feelings and experiences, and therefore is possible to go off the rails. We need to have a theological and a historical content to put things in place. Then there'd be a fourth view, and that is that you don't need baptism at all. Quakers do not baptise. They say an outward ceremony is irrelevant. All you need is the inward reality of your love of Christ. Another group who don't baptise are the Salvation Army. This came about historically because they were never meant to be a denomination. They started out as a group of people caring for the needs of others, and they were supposed to stay within their own denomination. But over time, as they met together, they gradually morphed into a separate denomination. So who's right? Well, the only ones I don't believe are right are the ones who don't baptise because Jesus has commanded it. The problem is that all three strands really need to be brought together, and that's where the difficulty is. It's much easier to focus on one particular strand. It's a little bit like the old story of three men in the dark trying to describe an elephant. One had hold of the ear and said, "Oh, the elephant's a big floppy thing." Another had hold of the trunk and said, "Oh, it's like a big thick hose." The third one had hold of the leg and said, "The elephant's like a tree stump." The validity of the separate parts is not enough to bring a real understanding. They have to be seen as a whole.
Who, O Lord, could save themselves? Their own soul could heal. Our shame was deeper than the sea. Your grace is deeper still. And you alone can rescue. You alone can save. You alone can lift us from the grave. You came down to find us, led us out of death. To you alone belong the highest praise. You, O Lord, have made a way, the great divide you love went further still. And you alone can rescue, you alone can save, you alone can lift us from the grave. You came down to find us, let us out of death. To you alone belong the highest praise. We lift up our eyes, you're the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, you're the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, you're the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, you're the giver of life.